Hi, thanks so much for joining us. It's Charlie Webster here. Welcome to My Sporting Mind. This is our first series finale, so thanks so much for all your feedback. It's been really brilliant to read, and we're so glad that you've been enjoying the podcast. We will be back for a second series. For the last episode in this series, we're joined by Burnley captain Ben Mee. Welcome, Ben. You're our big grand finale.
Hopefully I can live up to it.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, hopefully I can live up to it. Nice to be on. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thanks so much for your time. I know it's been a mad whirlwind year for you, not just with lockdown, the pandemic, not with kind of the football changes, but also you've had the birth of your daughter, Olive.
Yeah.
How have you managed to deal with everything, and how are you feeling about things now? And is everybody well? 3 questions.
Everybody's well, yeah. First and foremost, everybody's well, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's been a tough year for my family. Certainly toughest year of my life, obviously, with everything that's gone on personally, but obviously with everything that's gone on in the world as well, and what carries on at the minute. Dealing with it wise, I've learned a lot about myself, I think, about how I deal with things and how I can deal with things, and also helping my family out, my wife out as well, and supporting her, and obviously trying to concentrate on football as well at the same time.
Yeah, because for those that don't know, your daughter was born premature, and you decided to speak out about that in a way where it was a goal celebration, really. And you said about it's been the toughest year of your life. How did you deal with that personal side of things, and then have to go and put on that show on the football pitch?
It was difficult. I mean, leading up to it, my wife wasn't well for a number of weeks, and we were in lockdown with obviously no support around because nobody could come round, and then obviously our daughter was born, and yeah, it was difficult. I spoke to my wife, and we spoke about sort of would I come out and talk about it, or would we keep it private, and we found sort of strength through other people's stories that we'd sort of searched out, and it was actually quite difficult to find people with stories that have had premature babies, and we felt like it was a good thing to come out and speak about, and if it helps and inspires other families that are in a similar situation, it might not be as extreme, it might be more extreme, but hopefully it will inspire people, and to hear me now speak and let the people know everything turned out quite well for us. Obviously we've heard stories that it hasn't really turned out well for some families, which is absolutely devastating, and and we feel so lucky that it has actually, panned out how it is, and Olive's doing great, and she's a really strong little girl. So we're really grateful that it has planned out, and obviously with all the help that we've received medically has been amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine her fighting gave you so much strength as well, you and your wife. You said a little bit earlier that you've learned so much about yourself. What are the main things that you've learned, and what's that process and journey been like for you about your own self?
Yeah, I've realised that I'm very much more of a positive person than I probably thought in general. I've always thought I was a positive person, but keeping sort of spirits up and looking, optimistically, I guess, as well, and not not expecting anything really. Sort of when it comes to sort of I don't know how to say it, but so not thinking the worst as well. Sort of if something happens and we deal with it at that time, but trying to support my wife and be positive, and yeah, I learned plenty about myself, about my sort of my own mind and my own mental sort of strength that I've been keeping myself busy as well as one thing that I needed to do as well. Sort of throughout the time, we had times where we were sat in the hospitals, and just needed to keep myself busy, keep my mind active, and not really think about too much that was sort of happening as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things around mental health, isn't it? Is like trying to keep a bit of a routine and keep something to a positive distraction. What do you do then as a distraction?
Yeah, I was reading a lot of books, sort of like the leadership books and etc. and things like that, and the self-help mental books as well that help. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of psychologists out there that write books and all that, and it really interests me and intrigues me the way people have the exercises, or the ways of helping your mind sort of grow, I guess, and sort of learn about yourself a little bit more as well, which I found helped massively in sort of those times where I need that time to be filled.
Have you got any insight for us? Yeah, I know that I saw that you read a lot around geopolitics and like society and like human behavior. And I mean, I love that stuff as well. Because you read in like Malcolm Gladwell's book as well.
Gladwell,
yeah, he's interesting.
I read a number of things. Yeah, he was sort of one of the first ones that I started to read, and then moved on to others as well along the lines. And yeah, it intrigues me, sort of all that kind of knowledge, and I'm enjoying so I found sort of books around 4 or 5 years ago. Again, really from being a young kid, I've sort of stopped reading, and then I found it all again and found it really intriguing, more non-fiction than the fiction books. But yeah, things that help my brain and sort of me grow as a person. Really, I really enjoy sort of reading and expanding sort of what I can learn, I guess.
What's the most helpful thing? Have you got any kind of like tips that you've picked up along the way in reading? I'm a bit of a bookworm, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know. There's plenty that I've been sort of reading about, morning routines and getting up and setting that morning routine. It's difficult with kids at the minute, but that was certainly something that I've been trying to, whilst I've been injured as well. It's been helpful. I've been sort of trying to just get that bit of time to myself and have that bit of sort of quiet time, I guess, that, because once the day starts, it's a mad rush, and having that time to yourself, that hour or so in the morning.
Is that what you do?
Yeah, I've started to do it recently. Yeah. And just getting up that hour extra early, and before my son gets up pretty early anyway. So I'm trying to get up and have that bit of quiet time to yourself, and have that time to do something for yourself, like I said.
What did you do? Did you like meditate or just sit and have a coffee?
Not meditation, thinking a little bit. Just make a coffee, sit there, and maybe have a little read or something like that, because that's sort of my time at the minute. I can get to have a read or to like I say, just sit and just think about what I'm doing. Maybe organise myself a little bit that needs doing, paperwork or anything like that. But usually it's time for myself and trying to sort of figure out what I want to do, and with the day and the week and etc. With the kids or whatever, with myself. So yeah.
No, I think that is really important, because I think people sometimes in the morning it's difficult, especially when you've got things going on, because I think that's when you're like, oh, you've got to kind of face the day sometimes.
And
I think also people, when it's so hectic and busy, don't take that time for themselves when it's even more important than ever, right? When you're so busy. And I know that you're just coming back through injury. So how do you cope with injuries? I mean, honestly, on this podcast, it's been one thing that's factored in so much, especially in football. Never mind the physical side of it, but how mentally do you deal with it?
Well, I've been very fortunate sort of over the past few years that I've had very little injuries. So this one, I've been out for three or so months now, and I found it difficult being away from the team, and because I like being part of the group and the team, and you sort of coming in more than what you would have to be if you were sort of playing every week. You come in earlier, you'd leave later, and you sort of isolated with the physio side of it, and obviously you see the lads in and around the building, but you're not on the same sort of timetable. So it's difficult, but I think for me, I've tried to turn it into a bit of a positive and trying to do things that I need work on, I guess, if it's in the gym or something like that, maybe, might have another injury as well. Along that, I get that right as well. So work with it both and just try and turn it into a more of a positive and look at it sort of that way, rather than, I've got this time out. I thought I'd be back earlier as well, which is another thing. So I think once you have a long injury, you're told you're out for 6 months or so, you can sort of get your head around it. If you're out for a month, but it ends up being 3 months, you sort of, when we're going to be back. So you're not expecting sort of to be out that long, which is difficult to get your head around. But I think turning things into a positive when it goes against you is a massive thing, and trying to work it in your favour, I think, as well, is a big thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, because I don't know, do you get frustrated with that at all, or do you have to kind of pause and go, right, okay, no, it's okay, or is it naturally turn it into a positive for you?
Yeah, you get frustrated with it. You don't want to. No one wants to be injured. No athlete wants to be injured at all. But yeah, it takes a few weeks to sort of get your head around it, I guess. And like I say, I was expecting not expecting to be out as long. I've had a couple of setbacks and things, but yeah, once you've got your head around it, I think working into a positive is such an important thing. I get frustrated watching the team and not being a part of it. It's horrible, like watching lads on TV. Yeah, just I find it really tough, and I describe it as being a proper fan. When you're watching the team, like I get that feeling, that probably all fans get, and I just want to be out there and helping the lads, and I think fans at the minute would want to get back and be in the stadiums to provide that support and that help, and yeah, that's certainly what I want to do as well with regards to playing.
Yeah, I can imagine as a football fan, I want to watch some football.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking about this on a football note, because my team's near your team in the league table, and I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, I wonder if not having fans does really affect the performance of things. I don't know, in terms of I support Sheffield United, right? So Bramall Lane is normally rocking. So I wonder if that's affecting things in terms of motivation.
I think it does, for sure. I mean, we went to Bramall Lane last year and we got beat 3-0, and the crowd and the atmosphere was electric, and it was a tough place to go and play in. And certainly that carried Sheffield United through, to where they were. I'm sure it did. It massively helped. And with our team as well, we rely on the fans. Teams come to our place, and they don't like being, they don't like coming to Turf Moor, and that sort of enclosed, that old-fashioned stadium with the fans, on top of you. It's a difficult place to come, and I think that adrenaline, that atmosphere, the feeling around the games are completely different now. The fans aren't there, which is a shame, and we want the fans back as quickly as possible, and to make the game what it is, for sure.
Yeah. And also, this year it's, we obviously saw you. I mean, the majority of people saw, you gave an interview around Black Lives Matter, because there was a banner which said White Lives Matter, and obviously that's been in the news. So, but I'd just love to know how you dealt with the emotional side of that, and especially you were really thrust in front of the public to deal with that. And I think there is sometimes that conversation, whether it's you're a footballer, but then you have this social responsibility too.
Yeah, I think football's got a really big responsibility. They've got a big platform to use. And after that game, I was really fuming. I came off the pitch. I wanted to talk. I wanted to say something. I didn't know what I was going to say until I was sort of stood in front of the cameras, and I just after it I was thinking, what I didn't really know what I said, so it was one of them. I could have said something better, or I didn't know how people were going to react to it. It was a delicate situation, and it's had a great reaction, and really humbled by what has been said, what emails, etc. from people have really touched me. But going out there and trying to speak in front of people, off the cuff, it's difficult. Thankfully it went okay, and and it's received a really good response. But yeah, I was frustrated. I was angry, and to see what happened, and yeah, hopefully we don't see it again.
Did that teach you something personally about yourself as well?
Yeah, definitely. That's something I learned about myself as well, going out there and being able to do that, and gaining confidence as well in sort of myself, in that I can do that as well. And I think my personal growth this year that's been a big part of it as well, for sure.
Has that been interpreted into your game, do you think?
Possibly. I only had 2 games after that, so
I was going to say. It just feels like this has been such a big year from a personal side of things for you.
Yeah, definitely. I've grown so much as a person, in football life, and as a captain, as a leader, and in my personal life as well, off the pitch. So yeah, it's been important, and that's been an important part of it as well. I can I feel like I can speak and talk about things openly.
You mentioned your captain. So in terms of leadership, that's another theme that we've talked a lot about in this podcast. And I think it's so important because I think that people sometimes forget that they're a leader, no matter who you are, really, because you lead and influence your social group, you know, or like yourself, your public following, or your fans, or your teammates. You know, what do you think the biggest, the most important qualities are in leadership for you?
I'm still learning about leadership, but I think being sort of open-minded and being open to other people's ideas for me is a big thing. What our squad has got is a bunch of experience. We've got quite an old group of players in football terms. So me listening to other players is certainly a big part of my leadership and bringing people into the conversations and having that group discussion as well. You know, I don't want to be someone that is, you know, speaks up and shouts and balls and does all this. I don't think it helps as much. I think bringing people into conversations, hearing people's opinions is a massive part of leadership. And there's so many other different ways of, you know, being a leader or so-called leader. But my personal opinion is trying to encourage people to talk and communicate with each other, and everyone's a part of it, really, for me. And that's a big thing.
What's the changing room like then? Is it like
our changing room is fantastic.
Yeah, because it seems like you've got a real close-knit team.
Yeah, and I think it shows on the pitch. We've you know, speaking about mentalities, we've got a fantastic mentality within the group. We lose games, we're still together. We don't moan and argue about it. Things get said that need to be said, obviously, in any sort of team. But I think with our group of players, once our mind is sort of pulling in the right direction, we're a real strong force, and we go on runs time and time again every year that we continue to win games because something clicks in with us, and we have that ability to go on runs. And sometimes we've been in trouble. So at the minute, we're not doing so well, but I can guarantee that we'll turn it round and we'll go on a run and we'll pick up plenty of points in a short space of time because of that strong group mentality that we have.
I was going to say, like, how do you deal with that disappointment of losing the game? Yeah. Do you see it like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we don't want to lose. We're upset, but you know, it's a game of football. No one's got hurt. No, you know, we move on to the next one. I think with the Premier League, you have a bit more time to think about games, to dwell on it, especially in our situation. The top teams are playing twice a week, but in our situation, we have a lot of time to dwell on a performance, maybe get it out of the system during training. But you know, we want the games, once you've got beat, you want the games to come thick and fast. And but yeah, I think regards to a defeat, I've learned it through experience, how to deal with that. I think that's the only way you can really sort of deal with it. Maybe early in my career I was a bit more hard on myself.
Did you like analyze? Yeah, did you beat yourself up and analyze your performance?
A little bit, yeah. Probably I watched more of myself, I think, when I was younger. Analysed it more and scrutinised myself a little bit more. I've sort of eased back on that a little bit. Obviously learning about myself still, but yeah, I was harder on myself, definitely. My first game in professional football, I gave away 2 penalties. So that was my introduction to league football. I was, you know, wow, I've got, you know, this is what it's about. But then my next game, I was focused. I got man of the match, and I did that, and then I moved on from there and went on from there. So, but that first experience sticks with me massively.
In a good way, do you think? Do you think that helped you in a way?
Yeah,
you know, definitely. It's important to be able to make mistakes, right?
Yeah. I learned so much from my first game. It definitely was a big thing, and you know, the manager stuck with me at the time, and I moved on from there and had a good season, and in my first sort of professional sort of games and season, so that I learned a lot from that. You know, scrutinised myself, but not too much. Luckily, I had the game 4 days later, and I moved on from there. But I think analysing yourself is important and looking at games, but not too much that you're sort of killing yourself for the next game and knocking your confidence.
Yeah, because I saw a manager actually the other day. I actually did a social post around it, who really laid into their player, and that kind of made me think, because there's a great book around this. I don't know if you've read it, Black Box Thinking, around actually how we should encourage people to make mistakes, because that's the only way we can grow, and not actually really demonize somebody for a mistake, because at the end of the day, like, we're all human.
Yeah, definitely. And within football, for sort of young lads coming up now, it's difficult for them to get into the first team because there's so much riding on it, and mistakes are managers. If players make mistakes, they lose games, the job's on the line. But they need to make them mistakes to be able to learn and grow and become professional footballers. So that is it's a big thing, making mistakes. Obviously, you need to learn from them. If you keep making mistakes and not learning from them, then that's when there's a problem. But once you gain and start to learn from it, that's, you're onto a winner, I think.
You said that you've learned a lot about yourself this year, and also being open. I think somebody described you, I'm sure I read it in the newspaper, about being like a no nonsense, man with a great heart. But I think also, I don't know, it seems like you're also quite open, and that seems to be where you've grown this year. Do you think it's, are you quite open in the team? Is mental health something that's talked about? Is it prioritized? Is it a conversation that you're aware of?
I think the conversations between groups of players in general in our club are quite open. It's difficult to spot somebody with mental health, who has mental health issues, obviously. But I think the more you speak to people, and just as a captain, I try and speak to as many people as I can, just to make sure that they're comfortable talking to me if they need to, or I think we have a good group surrounding that. But obviously, conversations are a massive thing, and I think as a group of players, we're quite a close group, so that kind of makes it a little bit easier. And very much a welcoming group to players that come in. With regards to being seen as a no nonsense, I think that's sort of that's my pitch persona, I guess, that people see. People are completely different off the pitch, I think, than on the pitch. I'm certainly different off the pitch than I am on the pitch, that's for sure.
Yeah. You went into, I know you did some work around mental health wellbeing in the community with Aaron Lennon. Why was that important for you to do? And, what were the takeaways maybe from that?
Yeah, that's ongoing. That's a fantastic project that goes on in the Burnley community. We have, I'm an ambassador for the project, and we have psychologists in 7 high schools in and around the community, and they do a fantastic job. We had a number of suicides within sort of young adults, young children around town, and the community decided to do something about it, which is fantastic, and I wanted to be a part of it, and it's doing a great job, and people and kids around the project are really benefiting from it, and being able to learn how to learning skills, how to deal with these issues that you might have, or issues you might not even realize they've got, but they're just going and talking to somebody about general everyday well-being, and the people there do a great job, and I jump in when I can and help out and meet some of the kids and do what I can, and I want to do more. This year has been a bit difficult because of the pandemic. We've not been able to go out and really do anything, but certainly once the restrictions and guidelines ease and we come out the other side of this, I'll be jumping back in and trying to help people out again, and hopefully we can move on and maybe do something more when these kids do eventually leave school, and when they've got the skills, but they've still got people there to come and speak to once they finish secondary school.
Why is that so important to you? Why is it something that obviously it's important, but why personally to you?
I just think it's a massive part of everyday life nowadays, especially for children. There's so much pressure on them, kids, young adults. I think, it's so important. Even sort of between the ages of, once you leave school up to the ages of sort of 30s, or you're still a young person, and you're trying to succeed in life and wherever life's going to take you. There's so many obstacles now, and pressures and expectations, especially on young kids. There was a young lad a couple of days ago that was Man City graduate who sadly took his own life, Jeremy Whiston. And to hear something like that a year after he's been released from football is, it's so sad to hear. And but maybe if he had someone there he knew he could talk to, things might be different. And I think these children that have got this person in the school and being able to talk to, hopefully it can make a big difference.
Yeah, it was really sad what happened.
Tragic,
yeah. And I think it's something that, it's only a small percentage of people that succeed in football, and something, I've talked about it myself. I think I definitely have had problems with this in the past, where I've put my own worth on achievement.
Yeah.
So like for him, we obviously don't know, but do you think that's something that football needs to encourage more, to be open, to have psychologists, not just numerous coaches in the physical skill aspect of it?
Yeah, I don't know the setup for young children at Man City, but as you get into the first team, or reserve team, you have a psychologist around most teams nowadays. And I don't know what it's like for young kids growing up, but that is a major thing for kids leaving the game, and sort of being left to fend for themselves a little bit. And
it's such a big disappointment, isn't it?
It's massive disappointment. They've got pressures, family pressures maybe. They've got the sort of adulation from friends and families that this footballer and doing well, and then all of a sudden it's taken away from you. It'd be hard to deal with, and it happens to hundreds of kids each year. And they need to know that somebody is there for them to speak to and encourage that conversation to be had and to be open about it, for sure.
How do you deal with any, are you somebody that's had low moments? How do you deal with them? I know you said about trying to keep positive.
Yeah, but I think, I wouldn't have been able to deal with what I've dealt with this year, say 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, for sure. Low moments, learning about yourself is a big part of the process, the experiences that you go through to learn from them, to come out the other side and become the person you are. I think I've had setbacks. I've had low moments in my career, and sort of around the 16-year-old, I broke my leg twice, and that was a low moment. I was out for a full year, and that was a real difficult moment for me, and something that sort of I look back on, quite often. But that was part of my football career, and that sort of made me the player I am, the person I am, I guess, now, and that kind of thing. But yeah, setbacks happen, a lot when you're a footballer. I guess you have a bad game, you drop from the team, you get injured. You have to deal with a lot of things, I guess. But that's the same with everyday life. I think that's the same with people, in everyday life, like I said. And the important thing is to learn and grow from those experiences that you have, and you need to know that there's people there they'll be there to talk to as well if times do really get tough.
And I like what you were saying, because it's almost like normalizing that setbacks happen. I don't think you can ever go through life and not have numerous setbacks. And when they do happen,
that's the thing. It is normal, and for people to get down is normal. And it's when people get so far down that it's difficult to bring yourself up. But that's when you need that support. That's when you need to take that first step, to say that to tell someone that I'm in a bit of a hole here. I need to talk to you about it, or talk to someone about it. And I make that first step, because that's the hardest thing, isn't it? Making that first step to talk to someone about it. And once you've done that, you find it's not actually that much of a big deal. That I needed help throughout this year. I needed my parents. We actually got my parents in to come and live with us in the end, because I was finding it difficult to cope. They needed to come and they lived with us for 3 months, and that was because I need you to come here and and help us out, or help me out, and they did. And we went, fine, no worries. And so, great, big weight off my shoulders,
Yeah, it's almost like that preempting, right, of asking for help, but actually when you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, should we do it? Should we not do it? And then it's like, why didn't we do it a couple of weeks ago? That sort of thing. But obviously, with everything that's going on, we were like, we weren't sure whether we could do it or whatever. But needs must, and this was an extreme circumstances that we needed to have that help. So we asked for it. Yeah.
And I think when you said about feeling low, and then you said about feeling really low, and it's sometimes hard, isn't it, to then reach out or to talk, because sometimes that's the last thing you feel like, and it can be that vicious cycle. So my final question for you, because I know you've got some pumpkin carving to go and do, stop avoiding it.
Yeah.
My last question really is, and we've talked about a lot of different things, and said about talking about it and being open and what you've learned about yourself this year, but what would you say to anybody, and the young people that you have been working with and doing a lot of work around last year around mental health and suicide? What advice would you give, and what would your message be?
My advice, I think, don't be afraid of asking for help if you need it. That's certainly a massive thing, that you will find that people will be there more than willing to, lend an ear or, speak to you about it. I think that's a massive thing. But as I said before, the first step is the most difficult. But once you've made that first step, you'll find that it's quite a normal issue, I guess, or a normal thing to have, and people are willing to help out, and that's a massive step. And I think once that realization comes to you that hey, why didn't I talk earlier, or why didn't I speak to somebody about this or about that, and you'll find that it'll come pretty naturally, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. That's really good advice. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for
no worries.
Everything you've talked about, and best of luck with everything as well, and love to Olive.
Oh, thanks very much. Cheers. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ben. Thanks for listening.